very good evening to all of you. This is Business Today, your weekly business roundup brought to you exclusively on Channel I. And you know that we bring you business personalities where we share their success stories, and we also bring you news from the Colombo stock market along with detailed evaluations of particular segments in the financial market. So we have all that lined up for you, and let's move on to business personality segment to start things off for tonight. Right, today we have a business personality who is a pioneer in introducing an industry which represents our heritage, and he also turned out to be a very successful hotelier, and he is with me right now, right next to me, and he is Mr. Eric Suryasena, Chairman Surya Hotels and Goldie Sands Hotels, and he is also a well-known batik designer in Sri Lanka. Very good evening to you.
Good evening to you, and it's great pleasure to be here.
Right, and we are indeed happy to have you with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
As you're a well-known batik designer in Sri Lanka, let's start our conversation from there.
Yeah.
How did you learn this art, as this is a very, very specialized area?
And when I was a kid, I loved art, and I want to be a designer. Because my mom and dad wanted me to be a doctor and an engineer, but I didn't like it. So after completing my school days at St. Benedict's and St. Sebastian, I joined the School of Fine Arts in Sri Lanka and here, and then I went to London, and then learned how to do the designing and to be a high-class fashion designer also. And then came back here. Then I thought it's a good time to see something new to introduce to Sri Lanka. I thought I must introduce batik to Sri Lanka. Then I went to Indonesia and Malaysia to learn the techniques, how the batik is done.
This was how long ago?
Oh, it's 53 years, more than 53 years ago.
Very interesting.
And so my 55 years is coming soon of my industry. So then I went to Indonesia. Indonesia is the mother place for the batiks. So I want to know exact process, designing and waxing and dyeing. So I thought best place to visit Indonesia and learn the real technique. And then went to Malaysia, because Indonesia is a different place that they use a very mild, bold colors like browns and greens, like goma greens, like that, not the bright colors.
Okay.
But I want to see something different. So I went to Malaysia, and they are in a different way. Their techniques are different. So I learned the warm colors, things from Malaysia. Then came back to Sri Lanka. Then I got the contacts where they produce the dyes, the chemicals for use in batiks. So I went to Germany, to Herbst, the big company. They invited me, and then I was so happy to go there, and as a child, as a school young boy. And then I learned dyeing and printing.
So I think that's why you are here today. For the last 50 years, you've been growing your business, and you've been actually there for the last 50 years as a leader, as a market leader, because you've come into this industry with a proper foundation. So with that, batik was a cottage industry a long time ago, but now it's totally different, and the scenario is totally different, and the industry has grown into a large commercial one today. So for the last 50 years, how do you see this market and the industry growing?
Yeah, it was that time it was just a cottage industry. When I started with 5 girls, and then slowly tourism was developing in Sri Lanka. And then the market was open, and the people want to see how the batik is manufactured. Yeah. Then I started a factory. Okay. It was the first factory in Sri Lanka to people, the guests, the visitors who come to Sri Lanka to see the process, the correct process. And then, so then demand was so high. And then we expanded in Maravilla. then with 395 people, and then in Kalagadi another 65. That was the biggest batik industry in Asia.
Batik factory in Asia.
For
in
people to see.
1980s?
In 80s. It was 80s.
Great.
Because at that time the tourism is developing in Sri Lanka, and the market was there.
Okay.
So it was the demand was there. So that was I think the correct time we did it.
Okay, if I'm correct, you are the first person who introduced Sri Lankan batik to the international arena. Am I correct?
Yeah. Because I had a chance. I had a lot of friends because of the tourism, and I was involved with the tourism, and because of that, I got really invitation from all over the world, because I was the only that time internationally known designer in Sri Lanka for batiks. So I got the invitation from different places to have exhibitions and the galleries and the big places where they want to see my work of art. So I took Sri Lanka batiks to Europe first. Great. And to Scandinavia then, right around the world.
Right, excellent. And so as a pioneer in this industry, what demand do we have in the international market for Sri Lankan batik?
Because that time was a very big market, because it was not, our batiks are different than the Indonesian and the Malaysian that time, because ours with a lot of colors, and it's warm colors, and the designs also really nice, and with nature, and then with so many different type of design. So it attract the internationally. So then we did a lot of things and to promote this industry, and in different places. So I took the industry to the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And now let's talk about the story of a batik designer turning into a hotelier. How did that happen?
Oh, it's an interesting thing, you see, because the tourism start, as I told you, tourism start in 70s. Slow, it was 60s was nothing, just a little bit, but it was developing in Sri Lanka, the tourism, and started in a slowly. In 70s, tourism was starting. So we thought when the tourists arrived, there was not enough hotels, especially in Negombo, because Negombo is closer to the airport and closer to all the other part of the country, and within 2 to 3 hours you can go everywhere. And so that's why we thought better to start a hotel in Negombo. And then with some of my cousins and friends and their friends, we start Gold Sands.
Right.
And we developed Gold Sands. We start with 44 rooms, and then developed it to 72.
Right, and that was
the first. That was the first 3-star hotel. The first was the Browns.
Okay.
Browns Beach
in
Hotel,
Negombo. Right.
And I was the second to come.
Right. So, as you said, Hotel Goldie Sands is one of the oldest hotels
it's 43 years old.
43 years ago. But your next hotel project came in about another 43 years after Hotel Surya project. Why did you take so long to expand your chain?
Asanga, when that time, it was a booming time. Tourism was booming in Sri Lanka, and we were planning. I was planning. I had a land and with 8 acres, 1 kilometer beach in Maravilla. So we were planning to build a hotel, a luxury hotel, and 50 rooms and 25 cabanas in Maravilla in 1980s. So everything was planned, and I had 2 investors, 2 of my best friends from Sweden and Germany, and we laid the foundation stone for the hotel. But sadly say, next day was the worst day. We had problems in Sri Lanka. So my friend said, Eric, this is not the best time to go invest in Sri Lanka. We will wait for some time.
Okay.
So we waited.
Okay.
And then things were happening in Sri Lanka, ups and downs, and the tourism was one time booming. And later, when when my children were away and they had their education in US, Nilan, my eldest son, and the second is Ninesh, came back to Sri Lanka after qualified as a businessman. Nilan did it. Ninesh did marketing and finance. So we thought this is the best time to start a new project because they are with me.
Right.
So we start Surya.
Okay, so when coming up with the Surya Hotel project, after 40 years, the market has changed so much and the requirements also have changed a lot. So how differently did you look at this project compared to your initial project?
Yeah, Goldie is a different type of a hotel and it's only 3-star plus hotel. But Surya is different.
Yes.
And we were looking, my children were discussing and we were looking for a place. We want to do environment friendly, eco-friendly and similar to Maldives.
Right.
And with one side like front looks like Negombo, and then back side it looks like Maldives, and the other side looks like Arunachal.
Right.
So that is the way we found it. And then I told my children, and then Nilan and Ninesh took me and my wife to the site where we are in white color. It's very closer to Negombo, only 10 minutes to Negombo. Airport is 25 minutes. We found the best location.
Right.
And it was environment friendly and eco-friendly, and the location. It is beautiful. The front is sea. The right round from the front to the gate, the Ginoya, the river is going. So that was the best place we thought we can introduce, like Maldives, some water bungalows.
That's the only hotel in Sri Lanka with water bungalows. Am I correct?
But yes, that is the first water bungalow, first water bungalows, because we made the front with the sea and looking the sea and the river. We made deluxe rooms, 42 deluxe rooms and 14 suites. And when you come to earlier, the front was today the front is back yesterday. But then it was when you come to the reception, is under is water, and then you see the water bungalows there, and the fine and dine restaurant is in the water, and also the gym is in the water, and we have 6 water bungalows. That is the first water bungalows that built in Sri Lanka. It's beautifully, and also because my sons they are really interior guys. And the Nilan, and then we want to not to have a concrete structures.
Yes. I was actually going to come there, as you are a designer yourself.
Yeah.
When you designed your own interior, what are the value additions you brought into this project?
Yeah, we thought we do a really nice project, because to give a value-added project and to the high clientele, and we thought we must do with beautiful, making a beautiful pool, and it's parallel to the sea. When you are in the pool, you see you are in the sea, and the nice garden, and the theme was water, garden and art. That's how we plan it. And then we introduced a lot of wood, and the doors are antique doors. So it's one of the unique property you have in Sri Lanka. Right.
So today Surya Hotel is not only positioned as a tourist hotel, but also is very attractive for banquet facilities. So what makes Surya Hotel so attractive for banquet facilities? Because it is situated away from Colombo city, but still very popular.
Yeah, but in all the hotels in Colombo or in outside hotel, they have banquet facility inside the hotel. We thought to have something different. So we thought to have a separate place, so not to disturb, because our project, our theme is environment friendly, so not to disturb. So we had the idea to have the banquet hall near to the gate. And then my son Nilan had an idea, and he wanted to have a banquet, not a banquet, a ballroom. It's like an old castle.
Right.
So when you come to the hotel, you enter from a tunnel, like an old castle, and then you go to the lobby. You see the whole roof is like an ancient castle with woodwork. And inside, when you enter with the heavy, huge doors, wooden doors, you see the inside the ballroom. It's huge chandeliers and designer-made chandeliers. It's heavy. It's that you cannot see any part of the world, because the children, they design it, and they made the sample in China. Both were there, and then they designed the thing. And now today is very popular, not only for weddings, and not only for Sri Lankan weddings, and as well as the Indian weddings, because the Indian people, Indian weddings are, as you know, yes, it's big weddings, and thousands, and for days and days. Many functions. But here they can manage with 3 days and bring in only a couple of 100 people, and that helps us to sell our rooms also. And they take all the entire hotel. And then also we want to promote this hotel as a business hotel, business ballroom for conferences. And we have very good trained people and have a good experience, and with the exposure, and also the food and everything is really good, and presentation and the quality and the service is because of that we are getting so much.
Great. So what are the key areas you pay attention into when you manage your hotels?
Mainly I look at because we have a lot of good trained people, and educated and experienced people to manage the place. And we have a board of directors, and they are guiding, and I am and my children also there. And they are, Ninesh is managing Gold Sands, and Nilan is managing Zuria, and I am the overall managing. And also the quality, and we look after the staff, and because the high quality standard at Goldie, especially at Goldie, because it's a 43-year-old hotel, we have the repeaters, and some they have been with us for 35 times. And 35 times for the last 43 years. Sometimes they have been for 3 to 4 times for a year, and they stay minimum of 3 to 4 weeks, and up to 12 weeks. So because of and we look after the staff, and we train the staff, and to give the best service to the people. And the clients are very happy, and they are our repeaters. They are valuable clients. Great. And they are spenders.
Right. Yeah. Great. And if you look at the hotel industry, we expect the volumes to grow rapidly in future. Yeah. So do you think we have adequate number of hotels in Sri Lanka to accommodate the demand expected in future?
No, I don't think so, because the President and the Prime Minister and the Minister of Tourism, they are planning to expand this industry, because they want to have 4 million tourists in 2020. Okay. So we don't have enough rooms. So in Colombo, we are happy that in Colombo there are a lot of nice hotels are coming, beautiful hotels are coming, and right around Sri Lanka. I think it is the best thing for us to invest money to build hotels. Because of that, we just started at Goldie to expand Goldie, another beautiful and expansion of a 65 rooms hotel that we want to join with another pool, and it will be the best 3-star hotel in Negombo, because it's the Negombo is a hub of Sri Lanka for tourism. It's closer to the airport, and also you have everything there, and the restaurants and the pubs and the things. And we must if you are building the hotels, we are increase the number of rooms, you have to do it in high class, at least not below 2 or 3 star hotel. Otherwise, we don't get the correct people. We need spenders, so we need the rooms. So this is the time for the hoteliers to invest for hotel and to improve the leisure industry.
Right. Also, we see this market. I mean, the market is very, very competitive, and then we see people offering rates at very, very low rates and keeping a very low margin. So, how do you see this affecting the entire industry, and what are your thoughts on this situation?
I think it's the worst thing.
Heavy price competition in the market.
Price competition, because we have Sri Lanka have everything to offer for the people, the visitor. Because I don't think within 3 hours you have everything to show the people, different climates, different things. So we have properties, good properties. Why we market at a lowest rate? Like Goldie, we market at a higher price, and we have the occupancy for 80 to 90%. And Surya, we never market cheap, because when you have a good product, you can market well. And if you are trying to reduce your prices, and then you are killing the industry. So I think it's the best thing to keep the rate, and then the Sri Lankan government also must improve the industry, and so market the industry without coming down with the rate. I think hoteliers must be together and go for a good rate and get the best clients. If the best clients comes, we can have the good rate.
Right.
And the spenders come.
Right. So now let's go back to batik industry.
Yeah.
As batik designs are usually priced at a premium, there are many substitutes that have come into the market. So do you think the demand for batiks have shifted to alternative channels?
Yeah, because earlier the batik was just for day-to-day use.
Yes.
And the people just wear something like a shirt or something, and like a household thing. But today market is different, and we have a lot of the improvements, and we have gone for high fashion, and everywhere they like to wear something beautiful things. So I think it's the best thing that we have introduced lot of new techniques and to bring the highest quality batiks. Okay. And we are using silks and things, and the designer saris, okay, designer wear, and for the high fashion. And lot of fashion shows we are introducing, okay, we are organizing to make it's a wonderful art.
Right, and as the world is more concerned about sustainability and environmental protection, how environmental friendly is the manufacturing process of batiks?
In 60s and 70s and 80s, even the manufacture of chemicals what we use for the batiks were not friendly, eco-friendly. Today, we are not allowed to bring much chemicals, but not go with the eco-friendly and environment friendly. So, but for me, as a designer and as the first to start batiks in Sri Lanka, I have introduced some colors. It's environment friendly, and that is even you can taste it. You know, and also we don't release anything to the environment. Right. Even the wax, we reuse it. So I think we have to see, we are looking for a green world. So I think we have gone for that. And I have got a lot of technical knowledge. I have gone and studied a lot of way that we can develop and without disturbing the environment. So we have gone for that.
Right. So, what are your future plans?
You mean the batiks or in the
yes, both.
Both. My children are here, and the big demand is there for the hotels, and we are planning to open some new hotels like boutique type hotels, and also develop the industry, also batik industry, and with high fashions. And we have our anniversary is coming in 2019, 55 years anniversary.
You will have to celebrate it in a large scale?
Yeah, it will be the biggest function in the world, I think so. Right. I feel so, because I'm planning that way. And we are started our work for the last from the for the last 5 years. We are planning to have preparing for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for being with us today.
Yeah.
It was indeed lovely having you, and we wish you all the very best.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me, and it was a great honor and a pleasure to be here and to share my views.
Likewise.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Welcome back to Business Today, and as we move on to our final segment, we have a very interesting topic coming up next for discussion. So we will move on to the stock market segment to proceed further. The topic for discussion today is on investments taking place through Treasury bonds and Treasury bills, and that is quite a popular topic these days. And we have with us Mr. Keshava Pereira, representing Taprobank Holdings. Good evening to you, Keshava.
Glad to be here.
Right, so to start things off, can you first explain these terms? What is a Treasury bond and what is a Treasury bill?
So a Treasury bond or a Treasury bill is basically a government debt security, which is basically government borrowing money from the public. So why would government borrow money? So we know what the budget is. So government has revenues and expenses for a given year. So the gap between these revenue and expenses is called a budget deficit, which has to be financed through other means apart from taxes, which are revenues. So this is financed through external and foreign or local debt, and these come through mostly Treasury bills and Treasury bonds. So there are two types of Treasury bills and Treasury bonds. Let me distinguish between them. Treasury bonds are longer term maturity, so Treasury bills are shorter term maturity. Right. Treasury bills can go from 91 days, 182 days or 365 days, so up to 1 year. Treasury bonds start from 2 years and goes up to 20 years, which is the most commonly used in Sri Lanka. But there have been instances where it has gone to 30 years as well. So the main difference between Treasury bills and Treasury bonds is Treasury bill is a non-coupon paying instrument, which means that Treasury bill will not pay any interest during the period of its holding. So a Treasury bond, on the other hand, has a coupon payment, which is done biannually or twice a year. So Treasury bills with a positive yield is almost sold at a discount all the time. So if a 100 rupee Treasury bill, for example, with a 10% yield is the total return we call yield, which is the total return on a given security, a Treasury bill or Treasury bond. This will be so a 100 rupee Treasury bill will be sold at 90 rupees. So if you buy a 1 year Treasury bill today at 90 rupees, you will be given 100 rupees will be repaid 100 rupees by the government 1 year down the line. So Treasury bonds, on the other hand, has a coupon payment. So Treasury bonds, when the coupon rate and we should compare the yield and the coupon rate. If the yield is higher than the coupon rate, the Treasury bond is almost always sold at a premium, which is more than 100 rupees.
Right. So how can a person get into investing through Treasury bills and bonds?
Treasury bills and Treasury bonds. So there's the two types of markets. First, I'll go into this primary market and the secondary market.
Secondary market. Okay.
Yeah. So the primary market is where this central bank issues Treasury bonds and bills for the first time. Okay. So only participants in this market is the public debt department of the central bank, the primary licensed primary dealers, and licensed commercial banks who are appointed as primary dealers, and there's a special institution that's able to participate in this, which is the EPF, Employee Provident Fund.
Okay.
So this is the primary deal market. when primary purchases a security, they can purchase for themselves and this purchase for other people. So other players or participants in the market would be the secondary market, which are banks, insurance companies, investment funds, mutual funds, and foreign or local individual investors. So if you are a local investor, you can go to a licensed primary dealer or a licensed commercial bank most probably, and invest a minimum of around 500,000, which is for a treasury bond, and 10,000 for a treasury bill. So you can invest through the local banks.
Okay, so for the benefit of the general public, can you also talk about the pros and cons of using these options?
Pros would be a treasury bill and treasury bond is the safest form of security in Sri Lanka or any given country, because the government is the most credible source of funds for any individual. So in that way the risk is almost zero, so you can get the most safe investment in a country. But on the other hand, due to the risk being lower, the interest rates or the coupon payments provided by these securities won't be as high as other risky investments. So that's one of the things that when you're investing will depend on your risk appetite. So that's one of the cons of a treasury bill and treasury bond. If you compare treasury bill and treasury bond has a coupon payment, treasury bill doesn't have. So you'll get if you put a fixed deposit in a bank, you'll get a monthly interest payment, but treasury bond you'll get biannual. Treasury bill you won't get any interest payment, you'll get the amount promised to you by the government at the end of at the maturity.
Only at the maturity.
Only at the maturity. But the good thing is that there's a secondary market which we talked about, so you can trade your security before it matures, right, to a price you deem fit. So that's one of the advantages of having a liquid secondary market. You can trade it basically like stock market. So that's one of the advantages you have.
Right. So it's also interesting to know on the ongoing trends in the market. What are the current trends in the market?
So overall, in the last 5 months or since the start of the second half of this year, treasury bill and bond yields have been falling down generally. Apart from last couple of weeks, there has been a little spike due to uncertainties over inflation, probably. So treasury yields coming down means interest rates in the market are coming down, which indicates better opportunities for investors and better opportunities for the economy as a whole.
Right, but still we experience high lending rates in the market. Why hasn't commercial bank lending rates come down?
That's a complicated issue because there have been several studies as well. The transmission or the pass-through of interest rates from the primary or the bond auctions to the money market to the retail is there's a certain gap. So that and the other thing is that the central bank, although the rates have been coming down the yields, the central bank hasn't revised their yields downwards in terms of their monetary policy, which is the policy rates. So retail rates will continue to be high, although we can expect them to probably come down towards the end of the year as the whole interest rates rebalances towards a more lower rate.
Right. So can you also talk about the monetary policy of the central bank?
So monetary policy is basically how the central bank controls the money supply of the economy. So the reason for this is to obtain or achieve economic and price stability in the market. The monetary policy tools central bank uses are the policy rates, which are the standing deposit facility, and the standing lending facility rates, which are the rates at which the central bank absorbs overnight liquidity and injects in liquidity in the market overnight in the money market. So these are the most shortest form of interest rates, or the lowest forms of interest rates, or the base interest rates. So they provide a guideline for other interest rates as well. Another tool they use is open market operations, which is buying and selling assets. The central bank buying and selling assets to influence the money market. Another one, the final one is less frequently used, the statutory deposit ratio, which applies to commercial banks. by restricting or enhancing their ability to lend money.
Right, so there are several factors central bank takes into account when determining the monetary policy. So what are the key factors that determine central bank monetary policy?
The factors they would take into account is mainly, so as we said, the price and economic stability is their main target. So inflation is the key, and Sri Lanka has been moving towards a flexible inflation targeting monetary policy mechanism, which is the main target of the monetary policy would be to control the inflation in the country, which is an important thing. Another thing that they take into account is the money supply, which is mainly determined by the credit grant to the private sector, and the M2B, which is the broad money supply, which includes saving deposits, current accounts, and all kinds of short-term money securities. Another thing that they take into account is the interest rates of other countries like United States, because, for example, foreign inflows to our country into the government securities market is very important in terms of our foreign reserves balance, because compared to the stock market, government securities market has a higher amount of foreign inflows in terms of volume. So these are needed to service our debt, so it's very important. So when the rates increases, so if the Federal Reserve rates increases their federal funds rate, which is their similar to their policy rates, the foreigners will get attracted to that because they have a higher return there, and it's a much safer investment compared to a riskier country like Sri Lanka. So that's one of the key aspects central bank keeps in mind, because we need to have foreign investments in this country to hold. So those are the main factors they take into account: inflation, then money supply, then foreign interest rates. So the basic understanding is to create price stability, which is a stable rate of inflation to facilitate a stable rate of growth in the long term.
Right, so we are in the last quarter for this year already. So what are the predictions for interest rates and yields for the next couple of months?
So interest rates and yields basically depend on the investor confidence. So investor confidence has been quite good in the last few months, basically due to fiscal consolidation. Government's budget deficit is quite low for, if you look at the history of Sri Lanka, it's quite low. It's the lowest in a long time. They expect it to be around 5 to 5.2%. All the growth rate has been hampered due to floods and droughts. We expect the inflation also to be coming down to the mid single digits. So given all these, apart from the inflation factor, which is a bit high right now, the investors are quite confident about the market. So foreign inflows, these will keep coming in, we expect. So probably interest rates will ease off towards the end of the year. There's a high probability of interest rates going down.
Right, so my final question to you is, there are internal and external factors that may affect interest rates. So what would be those possible concerns?
So as we talked about this growth and other inflation related, which are natural disasters or these kinds of things which we cannot predict. These are external and internal shocks we cannot predict. So then there are, as we spoke earlier, about federal funds rate. If the United States Federal Reserve increases their policy rates, the funds from Sri Lanka might tend to flow towards United States from emerging countries. So that is another key factor. And the high credit growth, which is also an issue central bank want to curb because of the high money supply in the market. So these are the kind of factors that will impact the central bank's policy rate decision, which will in turn impact the general interest rate regime.
Right, so thank you very much, Keshava, for joining us today and for your valuable thoughts. It was an intense conversation. Thank you very much, and we really appreciate your presence today.
Thanks very much.
Right, with that, it is time for us to wind up for today. And thank you very much for being with us. We will see you next week, same time on Channel I, with more updates. Until then, take care and good night.